Good morning. This is a Black opinionated woman, also known as a bow. So, I did not know when I made the videos regarding about being light skinned and that type of thing, all in relation to the Amanda Seales interview for Club Shay Shay, that this would garner a lot of attention. But I'm here for the feedback. I think the only thing, or at least one of the things I wanted to point out was whenever someone or a group of people say, hey, I understand what you're saying because I've experienced these things, you always want to get somebody in there who wants to censor themselves. But what about the so and so? I'm like, this isn't about that group. So, if, for example, if dark skinned women say, look, we have experienced colorism and we've experienced these things, right? If they're talking about their collection experiences, it's not for a light skinned woman to jump in and say, but what about the light skinned woman? No, that's not it. But the same has to be applied to dark skinned women when light skinned women say, hey, look, this is what I have experienced in my lifetime because colorism runs rampant through our community. So what many people are saying, I mean, they may not be using the right words, okay? So let's make sure we make a distinguish. We distinguish what's happening. There are dark-skinned women who experience colorism, but the light-skinned women experience the I would say the retaliatory effects of what happens to people who have been. When they're saying, like, hey, I know what that feels like when you're in a group of people, with a group of people, and someone makes comments towards you, but you cannot dare say anything about them. And it doesn't even have to be rooted in skin color, but it's any sort of response. Or even if you do make a response in return to somebody's skin, you're the colorist, you're the rest of all these other things. The purpose of calling it out to say, people, I don't like you because you're light skinned or whatever like that, right? I have experienced that. I've heard that many a times. So one of the corresponding videos I made was a short video. It was about when um, I was a young officer in the military. We decided to go to Bodrum, Turkey. It was paradise, like a paradise. And what I experienced there. I have other stories. The point was not to make this the oppression Olympics, like, I was just picked on. That wasn't the point. The point was, hey, I understand what it's like to operate within these spaces. And you have to, it's totally like a cloak and dagger situation. On the one hand, you just want to be in fellowship and sisterhood with fellow black women. But on the other hand, how dare you challenge some of their notions. Sometimes just you existing, people want to tell you what you think. They want to tell you how you feel. Like I just wanted to eat some snacks and they're saying, oh, you think you're cute. And I'm just kind of like, I hate it when people just say that. Because my mindset was like, well, why would I think I'm ugly? Why would I think I'm ugly? But it was so much deeper than that, right? So I just don't like the fact that we would have these conversations, or people are going to take these conversations and run in a direction that it's not meant to be ran into. But I also think that, because light skinned women are part of the black community, they also have a voice. When I mentioned in previous videos that we should not be having these conversations in the vacuum, I meant that because in order to move past this cancer in the community, you gotta have an understanding from both sides. It can't be one sided. It can't be, oh, I'm a dark skinned woman and I have experienced colorism because of all these other things, and now that becomes a dumping session on light skinned women, because my experiences do matter. I know, I'll give you one. I think I mentioned it in another video. I believe it was in sophomore year of college. I was friends with this girl. I think I told this story, right? And yeah, I did because I nicknamed her T. Long story short, I think she liked some guy. It's always centered around a guy. That's what makes it so bad, too. But I think she liked some guy that I still to this day don't know who this guy was, but apparently he may have been looking at me and I didn't know it. I was interested in somebody else who I'm sure was dating somebody else. The whole thing was a mess, but the point was this woman goes around and tells people like I like the girls, like I liked her, and I'm like, wait, what? And not everybody knew it wasn't true, but it was the principal. I'm like, why would you do something like that? You know? And then there's always comments about skin and stuff like that, because somebody's like, yeah, she don't like it because she likes it. All that stupid stuff. And I'm just kind of like, I can understand her being upset because she liked somebody that may have liked me that I was not even aware of. But then the whole thing turned into like something else, like a skin thing. And, you know, I'm just over it. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is when she made that comment, I don't like you because you're light skinned or something like that. I don't know why. I felt that. I felt that. I was all the way triggered. And let me tell you something. I'm allowed to be triggered by things too. Now, I don't really get triggered often unless I see like a double dog cake or something like that that I really want. And I know I can't have it because I'm trying to get svelte. Svelte. Okay? But all jokes aside, everybody's allowed to be triggered about something. You don't know what's going to trigger people. But I remember that. And most of my experiences came starting like in college and as a young adult. That type of thing. I'm not going to say I've never had that as a younger, like, you know, as a child, but I don't remember a ton of those instances. It's mostly as a person in your prime fighting years, your prime competition years. So I experienced that. And like I said, when you experience those things, the negative side of that, it is disturbing. I don't care how many of you want to get in my comments and be like, but what about the dark skinned girls? But I'm like, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about light skinned women today. Because the dark skinned women have plenty of platforms that can talk about this. And it's being highlighted. And it should be highlighted of how they've been, you know, treated. But when someone says, wait a second, there's another side to this story. You know, there are plenty of women who go out there and try to bully people, pick on people. We've seen it. And then now, all of a sudden, people want to get on television and be triggered over Giselle? Get out of here. I'm like, you know, and the funny thing about how colorism works, you know what? I find that it's dark-skinned women who talk about people in skin tone the most. If you look at what's going on TikTok about these silly athletes that I wouldn't want are marrying white women, let them. These women are hyper focused on men who don't want them. And they get out there and make all these videos on it. Everybody sees it for what it is. I'm not going out there marrying. They'll be divorced in a while, or somebody's going to be DV because the prototype of what's happening now. I know I just made a whole bunch of generalizations. I was trying to be petty. I was just trying to be petty. The point I'm making is, look, they're too busy being hyper focused on men who don't want them. They don't want them. You got men out here making up a whole bunch of excuses for why they had to do. I don't care. I swipe right past that. The point I'm making is, you see, they see something going on, and they're constantly reacting to it. I'm like, but then there's this fake bravado about like how, yes, queen, you're a beautiful queen. I'm like, believe it and walk in it. But anytime anybody makes a comment about anything or they see something, they want to just go ahead and just like go all in. If a light skinned woman says, yeah, I know what that's like to have people not like you and say, I don't like you because you're light skinned. I've literally had that. Like I said, when you have a woman that can turn on you and say it's Women like you make it hard for women like me, and I hate women like you, or something along those lines. And I will never get married to a black man. I will make sure I marry a white man so that my kids don't come out looking like me. I mean, there was so much to unpack in that. You know what? Why you messing with me? Why you messing with me? See, I'm gonna get him. Oh, I think he's offline now. I'm about to mess with him and get to work. That's my buddy CBR kid. Um, but yeah, I'm like, this isn't meant to. The point I'm getting off topic. The point I was making was, I was letting people know that when she made that comment, I was triggered. I think the thing with Amanda Seals, like I said in multiple videos too, was she's got some mess about her. But I think the reason why I wasn't trying to pile on is because she already is a black woman who's very opinionated. And that doesn't necessarily go well for many people. Like, people don't like that. They want you to stay in your place. Number two, she is an intelligent person, maybe a little bit of an elitist at times with her thoughts and everything like that. But I'm just calling it out the way it is. So how dare she? I have a brain and be a pretty lady. You know, I'm sure people don't like the fact that she looks a certain kind of way. And what happens is, you can be a dark skinned woman and be those things too. And you're not necessarily unlikable. But how dare you be a light skinned woman with all this opinion and everything else? Oh, yeah, you're a colorist. Now, um, they say that about Claudia Jordan. I haven't heard her colorist comments, but I can believe it. But the point I'm making is, if a dark skinned woman gets out here, or even in groups, and says something like, with your high yellow self and all this other stuff like that, there's no backlash for her. They feel like, oh, well, I experience colorism, so I can attack you. I can dunk on you. And they don't know what that's like for other people. And look, all I'm saying is, when she made that comment, I felt that. You've got people out here making all these videos now about, they're literally trying to dissect if she's autistic. They are literally going in on, and she's just not accountable because she said this. She's just not like, I'm just kind of like, okay, so you want to make a video on whether or not you think she's likable. You know, Amanda's got some mess about her. She's no different than anybody else, but people are hyper focused on her. You know what? So I'm ignoring CBR kid. I'm not even putting your comment up on here. See, he's just trolling me right now because I mentioned this to him about maybe a week ago. I can't remember when we had this conversation. CBR kid is trolling me. But look, this is the thing. The whole purpose of that was not to get involved in having this oppression Olympics. Like, well, you said this and you said that. That wasn't it. What I was trying to point out was, in that moment, I felt what she said. I felt that deeply. Oh, absolutely. And that wasn't meant to take away from the rest of the interview, but I said I felt that. Now you got people out here losing their mother loving mind about that. They're losing their mind about, like, I don't think she's autistic. Okay, you don't think she's autistic. What? So you're gonna make a whole video on it? I was like, my God. Then again, I don't know. I guess the same could be said for me, because I definitely said I felt triggered by that one little comment. So, but yeah, they've got lots of videos now, and they're like, she's not even likable, and she's a this, and she's a that. And I'm like, y'all are doing too much. Y'all are really focused on Amanda. Then again, I think the world is focused on black women because they tore Monique a whole new behind hole. I think this is a total, hey, I'm taking a segue for 2 seconds and then I'll wrap up. I think the reason why I was turned off by everybody's Monique videos was because what little I saw of them was because I think people had this unrealistic expectation for Monique, right? Monique was not in a position to love her older son, or let me rephrase that, to be the mother, the kind of mother that he needed at that time, right? So what happened was, everyone put these expectations for her to mother her older son the same way she I'm fucking a CBR kid. I'm messing with you. Amanda Seals, you know Amanda Seals. Stop messing with me. So, Monique, I was just saying, like, she was not in a position to mother her older son the way she could her younger children. And so everyone had these expectations, like, you are the horrible mother, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting here like, half of these people don't know what it's like to be a parent. Half of these people were not in her shoes, but everybody wants to sit there and pass judgment and instead of extending grace because you went through. He said Monique doesn't like skinny women. She may or may not. I don't know. But anyway, let me wrap this up because I'm starting to get off on a tangent. For the people who, first of all, this is a good opportunity for you to go ahead and just subscribe to my channel right now because I'm perfect in every way. I can practically do no wrong. Go ahead and subscribe and leave more comments. And then forward to all of your friends and family and then just binge watch all of my videos. But for all the people who offered up some really good commentary, I really appreciate it. I do read the comments, sometimes not timely. I meant to read more from last night, but I was so tired. I fell asleep, so I'll see if I can go back and respond today. But I do appreciate women getting in there saying, like, hey, look, something has to be said about this too. They have whole colorism channels out there. Now, I know I'm like late to the game. Don't judge me. Okay, but they have whole colorism channels. They have channels for dark skinned women to bash light skinned women. And now the backlash of this is now you got a bunch of light skinned women or biracial women or whatever it is. I don't know. They are now creating these other channels in response to it. You know what? You know you like this lady. Why is she be out here trolling me this morning? I will be at work in about 10 minutes. I will hit you up in chat. Trolling the heck out of me today. But yeah, so I'm just sitting here like, what was I saying? I forgot what she made me lose my train of thought. Oh, for the people who are in my comments, I appreciate people leaving me the feedback in the comments. And the point I was making was because of all of this that's going on, like you got so many women out here, and you got the dark skin channels. I've heard some of their content. It is nasty. It is full of vitriol. They're like, those light skins don't like us, and they're ugly, and this, that, and the other. They're so basic, and the only thing on them is some skin. I was just kind of like, this is disgusting. Because the same could be said about every group of women, but they're focusing on like the shades, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Now you got light skinned women out here with these channels, and I understand why they're creating these channels and direct they're like a direct antithesis to what the current colorism channels are, right? Because with the but I don't hear, well, I don't know, I don't really listen to them for that much. Maybe I should. You know what? I'm going to start listening to hear what they're really saying. But what little bit I heard, this wasn't like a dunk fest on dark skinned black women. But I've heard some of these dark skinned um, women channels or pro dark skinned women channels going in. And I'm like, so this is the reason why the community is so dysfunctional. Instead of saying, how do we really get the system? They're like, they don't want to be like us. What they're doing is the biggest grift out there. They are out there, what they're doing is they're stoking the fire and they're helping to create this division and they create this resentment, right? They already got issues in the community anyway. And then, but what happens is all they have to do is stir it up, stir it up, stir it up. They don't even like us anyway. They want to be like us. You're the competition. Because I know the one girl, Chrissy, that's her channel. I called it, and I don't usually have to call out channels. I need to go back and try to listen to some of her content. I don't know. I started listening to that. I was like, oh my gosh. But they've got women out here putting this stuff online, going in. They don't like you and all this other stuff. And these are some basic women. And I was like, okay. I'm like, set from somebody who's behind an avatar. From an avatar. And they'll try to come up with a whole cosign all the reasons why they're behind. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you know what? Instead of trying to figure out a solution, all they're doing is continue to point out all these differences and then stoke this fire, get these women all round up, and then she's making money off of these women. You got these women out here trying to teach women how to be feminine. I was like, oh my gosh, they've got femininity channels. Like, it is the biggest grift. If I wanted, I could totally grift off the black community. I can go the Candace Owens route and just be completely slanderous. And then what happens is, it gets people excitable, and because it's so contrary, be like a contrarian, like a Jason Whitlock or something like that. That in itself is a way to make money. If I wanted to make money off the black community, you know what I would do? I would take my hair, I would start actually doing my hair, I would actually start slicking it down. I would come on with my face beat, okay? And I would start talking like this about this is how you need to be feminine. There's so many ways I could grift off the community. I don't. I don't. I barely even make content that's even interesting to people because I speak about the things I want to speak about, not the salacious things that people want to speak about all the time. But I look at what's happening with some of these people. I feel like it's disgusting how they want to grift off the community. They'll sit there and they'll stir up all this controversy and talk about this and talk about that. And I'm just kind of like, this is the kind of stuff that's embarrassing. What'd you say, CPR kids? Dark skin versus light skin, the eternal battle. Personally, I've never discriminated. I've always liked them both. Shut up! What's wrong with you today? Remind me to say something ignorant to you when I get in. Um, yeah. I just feel like this is what's happening in the community. Oh, I don't even think he's even on right now. That's what's happening in the community. People are doing too much. They're sitting there grifting off the community. They know the pain points, right? You typically pick a pain point. Usually, if you pick a pain point on light versus dark, black versus white, dating out. If you pick the pain point of, oh, all you gotta do is start talking about being a traditional woman or being a masculine man or something like that. Those are pain points because gender roles are not as defined in our community anymore. So now everybody wants to be hyper masculine or hyper feminine. If you talk about those kinds of things or parenthood, something like that, these are all topics that can get people riled up and you can make money off those. If I wanted to make money off the community, I would hyper focus on light versus dark or dating or I don't know, whatever. But I don't want to because I think my inner ADD kicks in. I'm like, are we done talking about this? How about that? I want some hand claps. How about that? Can somebody give me some encouragement? Um, but yeah, that's the point I'm making about this. It's the biggest grift. Now, like I said, there's channels out there, and I don't know. Don't look. Don't start asking me a whole bunch of stuff because I don't remember. There's one of them. The light. There's the one light one. I think I was even subscribed at one point. It was oh, a pretty girl, by the way. I don't think she was as bad, but then again, I didn't look at all her stuff. There's some I don't know the names of some of them. You would come across the channels and you would just see them go on a rant. Some of them would be like so because of those light skinned women. You've got the Chrissy girl who I've never seen a whole bunch of people so low esteem that they are trying to take advice from a woman that they can't even see. It could be for professional reasons, but people who are hiding behind an avatar, I don't take a whole bunch of advice from that. I'm just entertained if that's the case. Because she's trying to tell you about how to attract a man. I don't know what the heck she's talking about. I stopped listening. But I'm like, but what do you look like? What have you done? How are you leveled up? Does your definition of leveling up mean painting a bunch of stuff on your face and lashes and nails? Is that what that means? Is it natural beauty? What does that mean? Are you fit? Because they like them fit, feminine, friendly. Isn't that what they say? So the way I look at it is, if you're going to sit there, thank you, CBR. So if you're going to sit there and run your mouth I'm like, well, come from behind that avatar. Light skinned women out here, like, I am sick of these dark skinned bees out here. Exoticals, that's what it's called. Exoticals. It's either Exoticals Limited or Exoticals United. It was one of the two. I might even still be subscribed to this league. I don't know if I'm subscribed or not. But let me tell you something. These channels, she's like the light skin channel. I understand why she created her channel. I don't, because I think I went on that once one time, like years ago. She she has a channel, I think, in direct opposition to what's out there, because from what I've heard from her, it's like people have crapped on people with lighter skin tones for so long. And I'm like, wow. My thing is, I don't want to continue to further the divide. I don't want to have a channel based on. I'm just not into that, because at the end of the day, I have really great relationships with people who are darker than me, and I'm not interested in trading them in the world. I'm not. I'm just not. Like, I'm just not. So anyway, if you look, I appreciate the comments, and it's not that I can't have these conversations, but I do feel like when you are having conversations with people who are very similar to you, I don't know how the conversation grows. I don't know how you grow as a person, because you always having these conversations and it's each other. It becomes a living manifesto. And I don't want to live like that. So if everybody isn't in the room or represented, then the conversations, to me, I don't like having those kinds of conversations, because it just becomes a place where we can all complain and talk about. There's that one time when she told me that I was basic. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So, but real things have to be said. I think I'll probably do one more on this, and then I'll probably take a break from talking about it. But at least that's the plan. I don't know. Things change. Um, yeah, I'll probably have this conversation again, but just reiterate something that I've said a long time ago about my participation in colorism. I'll probably have that conversation. Those are the conversations that are always uncomfortable, but those are the truthful conversations that have to be had. And I think that the one thing that the dark skinned women are right about is that people don't get honest about certain things. They are absolutely right. So I think I'll have that conversation. When am I going to have that conversation? I don't know when I'm going to have that conversation. I got to carve out some time. I'm always in my freaking car driving from place to place. So I think I'll have that conversation soon. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. All right, so look, go ahead and subscribe, and then what you need to do is go back and watch every single one of my videos, because they're all amazing. Oh, every single one of them. They are so good. Oh my gosh. And then send them to all your friends and family and everything else. Have a good one.